Hi, very good evening to you. It's Dean from maverickstar. Well, as you've probably guessed, we've got ourselves into a little bit of trouble through slapping the Secretary General's arse over his comments regarding human rights and democracy. And clearly, that is a guy that wipes his arse on human rights and, should know better than anyone else not to make remarks like that, not to go after people on the digital space, as he so-called claims to, call the internet. The reason why I'm doing this video is because I need legally to say something, and that is, who I am, but maybe you don't know what I do or what I classify myself as, and it changes the law if I just mention this. And I'll tell you why I'm going to mention this, because basically it just stops the authorities kicking the door down, taking the computer, taking our TriMag system and other things. It gives us a little bit of time. We investigate science matters as well as do what we do. Obviously, we're reporting on science issues. That's why our website, which is dedicated to the magnetic pole migration, is called Pole Shift News. And obviously, if we are delivering some news on this issue, you have to be an investigator or a reporter. Why is it that I mention this? It just changes the law. That simply is the matter. This is something that you've never heard me say before or classify myself as, but that's the reason for doing it. I'm trying to find out the affiliation between the United Nations, which also includes the British government as well as a lot of other governments, what their affiliation is with social medias like Instagram, YouTube and Twitter and others. We want to know what the affiliation is, and if there is an affiliation, what the charter is, how the government ask these organisations how they go about the business, and whether there is a change of something for that privilege, because they are obviously targeting human rights here. And we know that they're a bunch of criminals and that making mistakes left, right and centre. And to give you, for instance, their organisations are not that strong. They do even turn on themselves. They are a pack of sharks. And just to give you, for instance, Lord Jeffrey Archer was thrown to the wolves for tax evasion. And he could have been helped out. He was part of them, and he could have been helped out by one of them, and not one of them helped him out. So their own little net group of people don't even look after their own kind. And he has brought himself a nice big apartment and looks down on them maggots that are feeding on barely what is a carcass worthy of feeding on, and just smiles. And that guy, you know what, I have a lot of admiration for him, regardless of him breaking the law for tax evasion. You know what, at the end of the day, he's got a beautiful jet, and he knows he's a better person. But the point of mentioning him even in the first place is because they turned on even their own, and that's exactly what they're like. And they turn on us because we're not even part of their group. And that's why I had to, bring that to your attention during the last few videos about, the Secretary General, being such a hypocrite. I mean, we already know that CO2 is not the cause of climate change. How could anything that is so small and minute in our atmosphere? They picked on the least abundant gas in the atmosphere and accused it of being the responsible for global warming. Can you believe that? We know they only go back 200 years in climate history to defend their case, which is ridiculous, because they totally omit all those other periods of time where it's been much warmer than what it is right now. They haven't even mentioned the fact that we're on the cusp of going back into a glacial period. Not once. But I have got myself into a bit of trouble for pulling his pants down, the old Secretary General, and giving him a smack with a good old cricket bat. And, I've got to do what I can now to defend myself. It's as plain and simple as that. And by coming out and telling you that I'm a reporter just gives me a little bit of legal leeway, and hopefully us a little bit more time. Because I really would like to find out what the affiliation is between the governments of the world and the social media groups, because then that would be a massive infringement on human rights, and of course would open the door to massive lawsuits that would cripple most governments. And that's why it's so important to do this. I am a upholder of the human rights, and I do care about the democracy, and I do care about what democracy stands for. It's just that these crooked little individuals use it in a different way to what we understand it. And the whole reason for having these was because of what the Nazis did during the Second World War. And we are back right there now. Trust me not. They are destroying information, even though it is in a digital format on a digital space, on the internet. They are destroying it. They are destroying the freedom of expression and thought and concise to share it with anyone, And it is right, I follow another channel, I won't mention them, but, it is right. Human freedoms is dying by 1,000 cuts. And we need we need defenders of human rights to keep them upheld. This is very dark days that we're in right now, for many reasons. And they don't like it when you pick on them. And you're right about picking on them, because when I pointed out that the Secretary General did in fact criticise people that were talking about whatever subject they wanted. I could mention them, but I know that it's very sensitive, but I'll just mention climate for now. There is another issue. I bet you can work it out, but I'm just trying to do my best for the truth. I want us to keep our human rights, and I want us to have, a right to think, to share those thoughts, however extraordinary or different they may appear, because that is a beautiful thing to have, and it would be terrible to lose it. So I will stand up for, those rights for all of us. I spoke to Craig Tracy, which is my local MP, regarding, what sort of affiliation does the government have, and he said there is no charter. He said there is no charter whatsoever. And I said, well, there needs to be laws, because these companies, these alternative media platforms, let's call them that, are absolutely chucking people off because they've got a viewpoint that they don't like, and that these viewpoints are very political ones. He assured me, he said, no, there's no affiliation with the government at all. There is no charter. So I'm not happy with that. I think there is, because the agendas that they are kicking people off YouTube and Twitter and all the other platforms are government issues at hand. So there must be some form of affiliation. If you can help me find out what that is, and we need something solid for it to go into court, we'll do that. We need it. That's what I'm trying to research, what the affiliation is and how it works, because there's definitely an affiliation there. We just haven't found it. It's been covered up much more than anything else. But we need to find out what that is to get this changed. There should be no company or entity in this world which is allowed to infringe on somebody's freedoms of speech and thoughts and the right to share those thoughts with others. No one at all. Because if at the moment it is the way it is, and we know that that is happening, then we are just this close to being back in that same situation in 1942, where the Nazis are not only burning what they want, we also know what they did next. Keep that in your thoughts, because that's where we are, guys. Guys, there is a link down there. I want to thank all those people this morning that have donated. Obviously, I've woke up a few people in what has been going on over the last few days. I will promise you we will get those SD cards out of the Trimax system tomorrow. But you know, the importance of this video was just to tell you that I'm a reportive scientist, or a reporter on science, or an investigating reporter on science. I'm a reporter, basically, and it gives me just a little bit of a leeway in the fact that it can stop somebody just coming in, taking my computer, taking my Trimax system, or our Trimax system, and any other equipment and data which they choose is offensive for some reason. It just stops that happening. It means it's got to go through court before they can do it, and they have to ask me as opposed to taking it. So that's the bottom line of what this video is about. So, you know, as usual, there is a link down there if you want to help support. Let's hope we can encourage a few more. Things are starting to get boiling point at the moment at the observatory. Trust me. You know, I don't like it. But you know what? When I see what goes on, I cannot as a person just stand by and let this happen without trying to do something, even if that comes at personal sacrifices. So I will say what I usually do: you take care of your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.